Monza, Italy, September 10th, 1961. Italian Grand Prix. Final lap. Wolfgang von Trips entered the Parabolica corner at 230 kilometers per hour. A touch, light. But at that speed, enough. The Ferrari went airborne, flew, hit the spectator stands. 14 spectators died instantly. Von Trips, too. 15 dead total. In Maranello, Enzo Ferrari received the news. His first question, what caused it? The investigation result, stress fracture in the front suspension connection. Metal fatigue, developed during the race, undetected. A name was given, chief engineer, the person responsible. Ferrari didn't fire him. He did something worse. He kept him there for 27 years, reminded him every day, blamed him every day, never forgave him. This is the story of how unforgiveness imprisoned two lives, the accusers and the accuseds. Giulio Borsari joined Ferrari in 1955, talented young engineer. By 1960, he was chief engineer. Enzo Ferrari had given him responsibility. Big responsibility. Earning Ferrari's trust was difficult. Giulio had earned it, or so it seemed. The two men were different but also similar. Both were obsessive. Both were perfectionists. Both loved control, and both would learn. Some things can't be controlled. The 1961 season was going perfectly for Ferrari. Wolfgang von Trips led the championship. Monza was the final race. Records show, during the race preparation week, normal procedures were followed, checks were done, tests completed. On race day morning, according to close colleagues, von Trips said the front felt slightly different. Giulio checked. No visible problem. We tested it, Giulio said. It's safe. Von Trips trusted him. Entered the race. This decision would change two men's lives, one by dying, one by living. The crash lasted 15 seconds. Contact, flight, impact, silence, then screams. The investigation lasted weeks. Every part examined. Result: microfracture in the suspension connection. Grew under race stress. Broke at the critical moment. The technical report was clear. No visible external damage. Fracture in internal structure. Not detectable by standard inspection. Meaning, no one's fault. Material fatigue. Accident. Bad luck. But 15 people had died, and someone had to be responsible. When Ferrari returned to the factory, he held a meeting. Exactly what he said isn't in the records, but those present told similar stories years later. Ferrari sat silently. For a long time, no one spoke. Then he asked, "Who checked it?" Giulio stood up. "I checked it. Procedure was followed." Ferrari's response, according to witnesses, was, "The procedure wasn't enough." Nothing else was said that day. But something changed. Factory workers felt it. The atmosphere went cold, one said, like someone died, but there was no funeral. Giulio wasn't fired. This surprised everyone. When Ferrari was angry, he fired people immediately. But Giulio stayed. Same position. Why? One theory. Ferrari wanted to punish him. Firing him would have been liberation. Keeping him there, reminding him every day, was heavier. Another theory. Ferrari blamed himself. Firing Giulio would mean he's the only one guilty. But Ferrari knew. The car was in his factory. The system was his system. Firing Giulio would mean placing all responsibility on him. And maybe Ferrari wasn't ready for that. Or maybe both were true. Giulio stayed, because he couldn't go anywhere else. On his CV, he now had the Monza engineer label. Which team would hire him? Two men became prisoners, one to blaming, one to being blamed. 1961 to 1971, 10 years. Ferrari never spoke directly to Giulio. Instructions came through others. Tell Giulio. Ask Giulio. In meetings, Giulio's suggestions were constantly questioned. A worker recalled, when Giulio suggested something, Enzo would say, "Are you sure?" every time. For years. "Are you sure?" The words were the same, but the underlying message was clear. Last time you were sure, you were wrong. Giulio gradually spoke less, stayed silent in meetings, only answered when asked. At home, he told his wife, "Every day I go to that factory, and every day I remember 15 people. Enzo doesn't let me forget." "Maybe he wants to forgive but doesn't know how," his wife said. "No," Giulio answered. "He doesn't want to forgive, and maybe he's right." In the 1970s, there were other accidents at Ferrari. Small, large, deaths. At every accident, Ferrari did the same thing, asked what caused it. When he got the technical explanation, he looked at Giulio. Sometimes he said nothing, just looked. The look was enough. A young engineer made a small mistake in 1978. Calculation error. No consequence, but Ferrari found out. He didn't scold the young man, just said, "Ask Giulio about the consequences of small mistakes." The young man later asked Giulio, "What did he mean?" Giulio didn't answer, just shook his head, but that night he told his wife, 20 years have passed. He still remembers, never forgets. "Do you forget?" his wife asked. "No," Giulio said. "I don't forget either. Every night I see it in my dreams. The flying car, the screams, 15 dead. Enzo doesn't need to not forgive me. I can't forgive myself." But what did Ferrari see? 15 dead. His car, his responsibility. Von Trips wasn't just a driver. He was a friend, a person. 14 spectators. Innocent. They'd just come to watch. A source close to Ferrari recalled years later. Enzo would go silent every Monza anniversary. He wouldn't come to the factory that day. Once I asked why, he said, "Because 15 people died that day, and I know I'm responsible, but Giulio should know it too." "So why don't you forgive, Giulio?" I asked. "Because," he said, "forgiving means saying it's okay." "But it's not okay. 15 people died. That can never be okay." Maybe Ferrari blamed Giulio to protect himself. Maybe blaming someone else was a way to not blame himself. Or maybe he truly believed Giulio was responsible, and responsibility is unforgivable. Which is true? Both, or neither. The 1980s. The two men grew old, Ferrari in his 80s, Giulio in his 50s. Still the same factory, still the same silence. In 1985, Giulio became seriously ill, hospitalized, stayed for a month. Ferrari didn't visit, but he held a meeting at the factory. "Who will do Giulio's work?" he asked. "An engineer? Maybe we could call and ask him." Ferrari. "No need. Let him rest." A small gesture, the first soft behavior in 25 years. But when Giulio heard this, what did he feel? Relief? Or he still doesn't even acknowledge me? August 1988. Ferrari died. Giulio went to the funeral, sat in the back row. No one spoke to him. After the funeral, a friend said, "Finally, you're free." Giulio, "No, because Enzo is dead, but the guilt is still alive, and I still carry it." Giulio retired in 1991, quietly. In 2003, a journalist requested an interview. Giulio refused. "Why?" the journalist asked. "Because," Giulio said, "whatever I say, someone will say guilty, someone will say victim. But I'm neither. I was just there. I checked. It wasn't enough. 15 people died. That's a fact. Enzo didn't forgive me. That's also a fact. Which is heavier? I don't know. Both are heavy." In 2008, Giulio died. Small funeral. The Ferrari Museum published nothing, as if he'd never existed. Two men, one accident, 27 years. Who was right? Was Giulio technically innocent? Yes, the metal fatigue couldn't be seen, but morally, he was chief engineer. He was responsible. It was his job to see. Was Ferrari cruel? Yes. Not forgiving for 27 years? That's cruel. But was he right? 15 people had died. Should someone have been held responsible? Two questions. Is it heavier to be unable to forgive or to be unforgiven? Ferrari didn't forgive. For 27 years he carried this anger, saw Giulio every day, remembered every day, never found peace. Giulio wasn't forgiven. For 27 years he carried the guilt, saw Ferrari every day, was reminded every day, never found peace. Both were prisoners, one to anger, one to guilt. Second, does being technically innocent mean being morally innocent? Giulio didn't make a visible mistake. He followed standard procedure. The fracture was undetectable, but 15 people died, and he was the responsible engineer. Guilty. The law says no, but does conscience? There are no definitive answers to these questions. Maybe there shouldn't be, because this story isn't about who's right. This is about how people live with mistakes, with guilt, with being unforgiven. And sometimes there's no answer. Just two men, both suffering, both imprisoned, one by blaming, one by being blamed, neither able to be free. What do you think? Was Giulio technically innocent but morally responsible? Was Ferrari right to not forgive, or was he blaming someone else to escape his own guilt? And which is heavier, being unable to forgive or being unforgiven? The answer is yours.